everybody. Welcome to Finding Our Tribe Presents Jedi in the Classroom with Fabian Hofmann, Jamie Halsey, and I am Scott Kazarian. We are excited to jump in today to boss battles, and we had a great banter before the podcast. We should always just record these things, and I guess we kind of do. But Jamie had an amazing idea, Jamie, about episodes. What should we have started with?
We should have named our first episode 4 to match the series. And then after 6, jump to 1, 2, 3, and then end with 7 and 9.
Should we have recorded those already, or no? Like we had to have known 4, 5, and 6 existed first, and then go back and do 1, 2, and 3.
So I can just do it like retroactively. I can just re-release them. I mean, that's what George Lucas does, right? He re-releases Star Wars all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay,
digitally edit out
in our when it's our 1-year anniversary. That's how we're going to re-release.
There we go.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we're going to jump into boss battles today. We're excited to talk about it. I'm excited to listen and learn. And so let's just jump in. So we're going to talk about like what it looks like what is a boss battle? What does it look like? How did you get there? Because it sounds like from our pre-podcast talk, there's a lot of like evolution of boss battles. So who goes first? I know, not Fabian. Go.
Exactly. Wow.
Yes. So let me tell you about boss battles. So it is an evolution, and a boss battle can be really anything. So it's essentially you can either have the class working toward beating an enemy, or they could be working toward rescuing something or unlocking something. And then you set up the scenario, and then the kids perform the activity. And then depending on how they do, they can beat the boss or not beat the boss, unlock the thing or not unlock the thing, etc.
Yeah.
So that's
is it possible not to unlock the thing?
Yes.
Really?
Ooh,
I had no idea.
You want to do that. It's kind of fun to give them a boss that's really, really hard that they have to then revisit.
Yeah.
So Fabian, would you say it's mainly storyline boss battles?
It depends. I mean, yes, for me, obviously, because I have my Star Wars storyline going, but you don't have to. If you're just dabbling with it, you can just like use this as like something that the students are working towards. And
but for you, Jedi in the classroom, it is a big storyline for you.
Yes, it's usually like part of like it's usually at the end of my unit. They all did their summatives, and then we're kind of like reviewing like what did we actually learn. And then for me, it's just review games essentially, and they are beating the boss or not. If they beat the boss, then they get like item cards and
you're
points.
Getting ahead of us. You're getting ahead of us.
Yeah.
You're getting ahead of us.
I'm just saying.
I co-taught with you for a whole year, and I still don't know what boss battles are. So I'm excited to learn a lot today in this from maybe Jamie. So Jamie, why don't you start with us on like what you do now and kind of how you got there. We'll let you talk for a while.
So when I first read Matera's book, and I had to kind of wrap my brain
Michael
around
Matera, he's a great gamifier.
Mike.
Yes, expert gamifier. Anyway, I had to wrap my brain around it. So the way that I envisioned it is I would have a creature that the kids would beat, and I would use the quiz in math, which is like, kind of checkpoints within the unit. So I would use those quizzes, and the students would have to score a 70% or higher. And if they did, they beat the boss. So it was kind of an individual against the boss.
Mm-hmm.
So the quiz was a digital quiz. The kids would take it. They would get that immediate feedback on how they did.
Mm-hmm.
They had a little boss sheet that had the name of the boss, the scenario, and then all the questions that they got correct, they would X off little hearts on their sheet, which was like the health of the boss. And once they were out of hearts, they beat it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So it was like
one
person fighting the boss, basically, not the whole class, right?
Right. Yes. That fit my brain.
Evolution us, go level us up or whatever we want to call it.
Okay, so we did that. And then the next level is I wanted to have the whole class beating a bigger boss.
Mm-hmm.
So what would happen there is we would have like a review game. So this is a little away from assessment, but a review game before a test. And the kids would answer questions. And as they answered questions, they would start deducting health off the boss as a whole. and the boss would then actually be able to hit them back. So it would have some sort of strength tied to it. I would usually roll a dice on behalf of the boss, and then that health would get deducted from the students. And if the boss deleted all their health, they did not beat the boss.
How often did that happen? How often did the boss win?
At first, when I first did it, I didn't have the heart to have the kids lose.
Yeah.
And so that was a little, and this is funny because I'm going to give a shout out to Will Carlson. He always tells me to embrace my dark side and to really be kind of harsh. And so I probably like a year into it, then I would start making it really, really hard for the kids to beat the boss. And then sometimes I would trick them in the middle, like they were fighting a TIE fighter or something, and then it's like, oh, that guy got scared and then brought like 8 more of his friends. So then like a bunch of TIE fighters were coming. Yeah. So, so then I would up the ante a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you didn't, and what was the fruit of that, of making it tougher? Did you see a response from students?
I did. They were like, oh,
lots of tears and crying, or
no, they were
rolling up into a ball.
Like, oh, it's coming. And they were, they would pull their cards out and they would start using their power cards and things to try to help beat the boss quicker so that more wouldn't come out.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then what does it look like? Did you already talk about? I don't think so. What it looks like today? Like, where are you today?
Yeah, so today I still have a little bit of both of those things, but I've added a whole new element. So this time what I have is that the boss has dice and they have dice. So let's say they took their quiz and let's say they scored a 10 out of 10, then they would get maybe a 10-sided die. If they scored like an 8 out of 10 to 9 out of 10, they would get a 6-sided. And then if they didn't pass, they get like a 4-sided die. And then if they had like a lightsaber, they would get like an extra dice. So each kid has their own little dice pouch. So then I just pass out their dice pouch, and then they have their sheet with the boss, their individual boss's health, and they have all their hearts listed there, and they start crossing out as we roll. So I roll, the boss hits them, they cross, then they roll, and then they cross. But what's really fun about it is I then narrate it. So like if the boss, has a 20D and he rolls like an 18, I'm like, oh no, he like got you with the lightsaber and you forgot to duck and he dinged you right in the ear. And they're like, ah, and then I'm like, okay, let's do it again. And I'm like, rev up your lightsabers, get ready. And they're like this with the dice roll, and they're rolling it. And it's this big, exciting battle. So having the kids have their own dice really amps up the excitement.
That's awesome.
Really I have a card in my game where they just it's a chance card where they roll the dice 6 times. And if they roll even, they get XP. And I'm like, oh man, this is your guys' favorite card. And I think it's that they just like the risk of it. They like the risk of just having the dice in their hand and their future being dictated by these dice.
It's the dice, it's them rolling the dice, right? Exactly. So they're really like physically participating.
Like when do you ever have like in school a chance to influence an outcome like that, right? So like this quickly, that is not like showing your knowledge, but it's literally just based on luck. And I think that's the draw. It's like it's this immediate feedback, just like in a real game. You shoot and you don't hit and you get killed, and you have like something happens like right away. And I think that's what makes it so fun for the kids. And just dice are
doing the dice, so like they want to get 100% so they can get that beefier dice, right? Versus like if you don't pass, you get like a 4, you probably won't beat it.
Yeah. So Jamie, so they've completed all their work prior to this boss battle. The actual schoolwork itself is completed, yeah?
I don't really, it's hard because I teach all the subjects all day. So it's all kind of like melded together.
No. So, but when they're rolling dice, they don't have to do anything else academically.
Oh no, it's almost like just like a game. Like you have your work phase, Like on a board game, you have like your phases. So they have their work phase. We dole out the dice. We look at, all of that. And then we have like the rolling phase.
And so like the mechanic or whatever, the piece, I don't think I used the word mechanic, right? So don't laugh at me. Okay, you're already laughing. But like
is he telling us not to laugh? I mean, what do you...
Okay, now we're all laughing at Mr. Cat. But no, so the motivation then is I want the biggest dice roll I can get. And then it's just game time. So everybody's involved and let everybody have access. So everyone has a chance. It's just you may have more of a chance based on your comprehension.
And some kids, if you're powerful, you can knock that boss out right away because you've got you're all equipped. And
so this is an eye opener for me. So Fabian, let's go to you. But quick question before I'm going to spoil it a little bit. So when you did Icebreaker or Break the Ice, and I watched you play that game, I think there were academics tied to it a little bit. So you do it a little bit differently. Tell us where you started with, how you got to where you are, what you you just, go. I'll interrupt you as I feel.
Okay, so boss battles for me, the way I had this evolution of boss battles in my class too. When I first started, I started doing gamification in summer school, and I saw those kids for like 2 hours at a time every day. So there was a lot of time where they could do work and all that, and I could also throw in like boss battles and all. And I was just like, this is amazing. I wasn't like pressed on time. And so what I did was, when each week we would like sum up, let's say it was a literature class, we would be like, okay, so this week we're focusing on horror stories, next week we're focusing on naturalism, the week after we're focusing blah blah blah. And so every week we would have a boss battle in which we would review what they just learned, essentially. And what I did was I combined mini games with a boss battle. So, and that was way too much. It was way too much. It took forever. So I could not do that in class. So what that means was, so I would have this game called, let's say that, what is it? The Dastards.
You had a game.
Spiky Dastards. It's like this game where you have these little spiky guys that you have on the table, and you flip over cards, and then depending on what you see on those cards, you need to grab like the right color of those spiky guys. And I combined that with a boss battle, in that they had to answer the question. If they answered the question, they got to go play this game, and then if they played that game correctly, they would be able to attack Boba Fett, because they were trying to defend their ship from these spiky dastards, and then also trying to defend it from Boba Fett, which it's just way too much. And so I'm not doing it like that anymore, because it was complicated. It was complicated. It was fun.
The name alone seems fairly complicated. Just
spiky
dastard. It was very confusing.
Anyway, so that was like the first time I did it. Then I actually rolled it out in my middle school class, in English class. And so I would throw that away, like the spiky dastard game, and would just focus on Boba Fett. So all I did was I would have a buzzer. So the kids, you could give them like an actual buzzer that you have, or you have them log on to like a buzzer website, like buzzin.live. You could use that. And then they can do this on the computer or on a phone. The whole team has one buzzer. And then I would ask a question projected on the screen, and multiple choice, or later on, I didn't do multiple choice anymore. And then they would buzz in. They would answer the question. If it was incorrect, I already told them in the beginning, hey, Boba Fett he's very strong. He's very good at what he does. So when he hits you, that's like 10 health points off your health that you have. And if you hit them, if you answer the question correctly, you get to hit Boba Fett. They roll a dice, and then that would affect the health that Boba Fett has. And
that sounds really simple.
that was like the much simpler, right?
It was much simpler.
Yeah. So that is like the regular boss battle that I do. It's just different the higher they are in their level. So once they have a lightsaber, they have like a specific number of health points that they get as a group. So if you have five,
so let's break it down a little bit. Do you mind breaking it down a little bit?
Sure.
So you have boss battles, and you're saying like 10% off, sorry, or 10 units off. Are you saying like percentages, like they lose like 10%? They hurt are you doing percentages? Because she did hearts, Jamie does hearts. How do you do that?
So before they have lightsabers, I do the same thing that Jamie does. They have like 5 hearts, and I have them draw them on a piece of paper. And then when they get hit, they have to remove a heart.
Got it.
Once they have lightsabers on their card, it says, okay, if you're level 1 lightsaber wielder, you roll the die, and this is how much health points you get. It's like a 20-sided die or whatever. That's how much life points you have with, as a person.
Yeah.
And then you add those up around the team. So as a team, if there's 4, 5, 6 kids, they can have up to 100 HP. Okay. So depending on how lucky they are, they're going to have a lot of HP. If not, they could end up with like 6 HP, right?
So a team has like 100 HP, and then you're saying the boss itself has, how much do you normally give them?
Usually I have, for Boba Fett, I had him like have 80. Then
Okay.
later on, the others are a little bit stronger. So
depending
depending
still pretty competitive. Like
yeah.
They're going to have to work to get it.
So what you don't want, of course, is you don't want that team that has like 20 HP as a group. You don't want them to be like, well, it doesn't matter what I do, right? I don't, if I roll the die and we got all the questions wrong, then we're just going to die like really quick. So you want to make sure that you have these mechanics built in that other teams can help you, or that there are item cards available that they can buy before they go into battle, just as like security, that would like upgrade their health. They have like a shield generator or something like that to make sure that, just in case, we have that as a backup, and then they like don't get hit as hard, for example.
Yeah.
So that.
And how do you feel about if they? How do you feel about that? Whether they like, does everybody pass your boss battles typically?
No.
Okay.
No. So sometimes teams they die, and they're out. They can still play along. But
you just shrug your shoulders and say, "Oh, too bad, you lost."
Dead. But there's always mechanics involved where they can get back in. They can still get points for playing along. They just can't win like the ultimate prize. They won't get an item.
So that's a really great question for both of you, maybe.
Yeah.
Then, like, so they lost the boss battle. Now what?
Yeah, exactly. But for me, since I haven't done like individual boss battles where it's like one person against the boss. Yeah. And everybody fights the boss. For me, it's always team. That's how I've been doing it. It's always like the whole class is trying to defeat Boba Fett, and you want to make sure that Team A is successful and doesn't die, because if they die and they die and they die and we're the only ones fighting, then the chances of defeating him are much lesser. Yeah. So there's like this thing going on where it's like, okay, we want to win this game overall. We want the whole points. Because if we're the last team that defeats him, we get extra points.
We have a vested interest in everybody succeeding. You know, the Jumanji game, the board game, I think I've talked about this on our other podcast.
Yeah.
So many podcasts keep track of that. I love it because they all roll dice trying to save each other. And that's really great. So what do you do, Jamie? So they lose. Now what?
So if it's an individual versus a boss, usually those are tied to quizzes. So basically, they actually on the bottom of their battle sheet, it says success or not yet. Like, did you beat them? Not yet. So if they have a not yet, they can retake the quiz. And if they do beat them, they get all of the XP. Now, they don't get the dice battle again. That's kind of, that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
So, but, and I don't award extra XP for beating the boss. It's just like, did you pass or not?
Yeah.
But they always have a chance to earn the XP later on.
And the nice thing about this is that you can do it any way you want, right? You can have that mechanic that I have, where it's like, if your team defeats the final boss and you're the last ones, then you get extra points. If not, if you don't want that, then just leave that out and don't do it. It's like there's so many ways of doing that, and just like playing video games, playing like board games, role-playing games, you get just like exposing yourself to this stuff. You get lots and lots of ideas, but there's no like perfect version of this, because everybody's classroom is different. Everybody's experience with games is different.
Well, so final question on it, because we're kind of winding down. We're going to need to, to be continued this episode.
Yeah.
But, so for you, Fabian, if they win, they get XP.
Mm-hmm.
And do they get credits too? What else do they get?
I would now. I would
victory clap.
Yeah, like one nice clap, like a power clap that I used to.
Sorry.
And usually the winning team then would get like a surprise pack of item cards.
Oh,
That's
got
like-
it. And
that's
Jamie,
like
what
always
about for
there.
you? What do they get when they win?
If it's an individual, they get XP and then a trip to the deck, so they can
To
pull
the random deck.
the random deck, so they can pull that out.
Gosh, well, we have so much more to talk about, and
we
we're
will.
not going to be. We just can't get to it all in one episode. So we're going to do a to be continued and talk more about. Gosh, so many things. Boss battles, the small G boss battle, lots to talk about there. Mini games, assessments, and all of that in our next episode. So we'll see you next week.
Yeah, may the force be with you.
May the
We said
force
it
be
at the
with you.
same time.
I was going to
was
say it
first.
first, but I didn't want to be rude.
No,
and
I
say it
was first.
I was
the
gonna.
lag.
But we'll see
It's a
on the
lag.
replay.
Yeah.
Who was first.
All right, bye everybody.
See you
We'll
later,
next
guys.
time.
Bye.